This is a folding phone. This is the Huawei Mate Xs2. It's a smartphone that's been iterated over the years. I've had an opportunity to see it over the years. But the biggest thing about this right now is that if I want to use it like a regular phone, it looks like a regular phone. It has a case that makes it run like a regular phone. And we get a 6.5-inch display at 120 Hz refresh rate. But if I really want that extra real estate, with a push of a button and expansion of the back, I have a 7.8-inch display. Much bigger than some of the other offerings on the market right now, but more specifically, much thinner and minus the crease. Of course, when I don't need it as an unfolded phone, I can close it, put it back in, and use it like a regular phone. This is why I'm very excited about the brand new Mate Xs2 from Huawei. This is TK. I want to share with you guys my experience of using this for the last month. And of course, I've been very surprised as to how this ergonomics changes my interaction with a folding phone. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So the first thing I will mention that this is the global edition of the Huawei Mate Xs2. So it should be available depending on the market that you're in. You'll be able to check it out directly on their main site. It does have the app gallery. This is the app store that this system uses. As we know, Huawei does not have Google Play services. So we're using the Huawei HMS. So basically, app gallery and pedal search is going to be the primary two sources to be able to get applications running and updated, and of course, to explore new applications on Huawei devices in 2022. It does include a 66-watt charger in the box. I'll give it a second to highlight there. And of course, it does also include a USB-C to USB-A charging cable to be able to charge up the 4600 milliampere battery from 0 to 100%. The box does include this case. This is a very specific case made by Huawei. And the main benefit of this is, although I don't have the adhesive on here because I wanted to remove it for you guys, it allows us to use the phone in a format that looks like a regular phone. Now, if you don't have it in the case, obviously we have a display on the back and display on the front. There is a button here that we push, and this opens it up, and we can expand the display to be a full 7.8-inch display running at 120 Hz refresh rate. We now have a front-facing camera over the last generation of this device, and of course a couple of shortcuts in here. Internationally, this is going to be running EMUI 12 on top of Android, and of course, if you're purchasing the Chinese variant of this, it'll be running EMUI with Harmony OS in that market. But otherwise, when I have the case on it and I'm not using it as a fold or an unfolded phone, it looks and it functions like a regular smartphone, and it's a large display, the right format for a large, of course, standard smartphone nowadays. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about comparisons between the Z Fold4 and the Z Flip4. The reason behind this is I want to kind of get this out of the way because for the most part, everybody's going to try to compare how does this compare to the Z Fold. Now, overall, when we're looking at the smartphone in their compressed format, both of their displays are closed. You can definitely see that the Xs2 is a larger display, a little bit taller on the sides, and this again, keep in mind there's a case here. And of course, it's also wider when you put them next to each other. So from a smartphone experience, you are getting a bigger display, and there's no question about the fact that this is going to be more usable as far as real estate. This is more to what you typically get from a smartphone. And coincidentally, this is closer to what we typically get here from, let's say, the Z Flip4 as far as a smartphone. It's closer to a full format phone, but the Z Flip4 stays in this format 90% of the time. So the biggest thing between these two is obviously a larger front-facing display. The difference obviously changes when we go on to the internal display on the Z Fold, because the Z Fold has a separate display for the internal mechanism. So this is something that you want to keep in mind. When you're using the Z Fold as a smartphone, let's go ahead and bring this in, it's a different display. Although here on the Mate Xs, when I open it up, so here's the main external display, when I push the button and expand it, it's the same display, and both of them are sitting to the same experience. So larger front-facing display and a larger internal display, still running at 120 frames per second because it's the same display. Here we have 120 frames per second on the internal display and 60 frames per second on the external. So the experience does change a little bit. Now, the last thing I want to do here is very quick is talk about thickness, and as far as footprint, and if these devices obviously are thin devices. But you can definitely see here that the the Mate Xs2 definitely commands a smaller hinge and of course a smaller, more thinner design. And that's mostly because they have a lot of their mechanisms built in here into that little bump on the back. Although at its most, for the most part, it is much thinner. We have a better grip here on the right side. And if I'm using it as a standard phone, if I can just go ahead and close it up right there, I can close it and not necessarily lose a beat because the display, it just has to reconfigure itself. Otherwise, here with the Fold, I have to close it and start using the front-facing display which again is a thinner display, not as large. So that's some of the biggest differences. And again, as I mentioned to you guys with the Z Flip, it pretty much mimics the internal display of the Z Flip, although you have to open up the Z Flip to use it that way. It is running Android internationally, but it's running EMUI. This is going to be the software running from Huawei. This is EMUI 12 running on top of Android. There is no Google Play services. We have HMS, which means we have App Gallery. This is going to be the application store directly running from Huawei. I'll let it finish up there. And you're able, for the most part, to find almost every application you want. And if it doesn't actually exist in the App Gallery, they do leverage the use of pedal search to be able to install applications on your device. And what I mean essentially is there's a few things we can do. Now you'll notice right there I have Tidal, I have Google Maps installed, I have Instagram, Twitter, Netflix, TikTok, as well as PUBG Mobile. All of these were downloaded directly using the App Gallery. I also have Gmail and YouTube as running as quick apps, which means they run as a browser edition version of these applications. And what that means essentially is that it will load up for us as a device, as a standard YouTube site. And I can jump directly into it and it'll expand. I can run them in full screen. I can run it and enjoy content from here. I can also open up Netflix, enjoy content straight from it. And the benefit, what we have here with the new App Gallery, is that I can also update these applications directly from here. I can go directly into my account and then go in App Update. And if there is any updates for my applications, I can run them from here. And it runs through the automated process of installing these updates and replacing the applications. So a lot of these things are very easy and very functional for us. And one of the main things that I really like about it is that it really makes the process very smooth. It's no longer this, do I have the right app? Can I find it? It's more of a question of which source. Is it on pedal search or is it running on App Gallery? And it's going to run really nicely. Okay, so as far as the experience itself, again, PAL-LX9 is the model number. The build number is 12.0.1.1, and this is running EMUI version 12.0.1. It is using the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 4G platform. There is no 5G on this device, and this is going to be the configuration that's available for this device. There is no other versions of it. This is pretty much what you're going to be using. The display is beautiful, very nice. There is no crease in the middle. Your finger goes right across without ever dipping in, and that's the benefit of the mechanism that they're using here. It's very thin, it's very lightweight to use. Let's go ahead and take off the case, and you can definitely appreciate what we have. On the right side, let's go ahead and give it a second here. You can see one of the stereo speakers and pretty much basically just an opening at the top and the mechanism here that we have, or the hinge. You can definitely enjoy content on this, play a YouTube video, play a Netflix movie or whatever. It runs really nicely. And of course, if you want the larger display, it runs and it opens up very quickly. As you notice, the animation is very nice and very smooth. And one of the big things, the moment it recognizes that you're closing it, it goes down into this format. Of course, this will help us, of course, just keeping the phone standing up if you want to record. Now, we're able to use the back display in a few different scenarios. One of them is obviously as a camera app. By default, it's turned off. If I click this little button on the side here, now it allows me to actually use the back-facing camera, the 50-megapixel primary shooter, with the actual display on the back to be able to see myself. So you can see yourself right now because I have it configured there. But not only am I able to use the main camera in the back, I can also use it in the front, and we can use the volume rocker to initiate the function of taking a picture or starting a video. So no longer do we need the controls in the front. It's pretty much straightforward. You configure it and you let it, basically you set it up and you go from there. When you're done, you can go ahead and close it. And of course, you can use this in either video, photo mode, pro mode, any application format that you need. It's not limited to just taking pictures, which is definitely very nice. And we're going to take a look at some of those pictures. But one of the biggest things I really like is on the bottom, we have a secondary stereo speaker. Obviously, we have the USB-C charging cable here, connector. And we have this nice little spring mechanism option that allows us to basically pop the phone open. So here, every time I want to open it up, push it and it pushes the phone open and I'm able to use it. And it's clean, it's nice, it's non-slip, well, it's non-fingerprint showing here on the back. The material here is very good. There's a few color options available. The case makes it and allows it to run and work like a regular phone. And so basically the way I've been using it lately is just like this. If I need a bigger display, I put it in. And if I don't, I can just run it the way it runs right now. I want to go ahead and do a quick video with the main sensor on the back. Now I'm using the actual back display to be able to see myself. So therefore I'm actually able to use the best camera on this device. This is the Huawei Mate Xs 2. And of course, 4K 60 frames per second is going to be the best resolution that we're able to record in. And we can see ourselves clearly. Now I can be in front or even behind. So if I'm recording somebody else, they can see what they're looking at so that they have an understanding of how to frame themselves and how to actually make sure that they're staying in focus. So hopefully this is a good example of audio and video on the brand new Mate Xs 2. Now, as I mentioned to you guys, this does not have 5G, but on T-Mobile here in the US, I'm able to get 4G LTE on this. I was actually getting pretty decent speeds on this, although I'm not sure why the upload speed was running a little bit slow. I was able to pull in about 51 megabits down, but about 0.14 up, which is not true because I've been able to actually run it pretty smoothly most of the time. I'm not sure if it was more about the location where I was. Again, I downloaded Geekbench, I downloaded Google Maps. Google Maps run exactly as you'd expect it. You can launch it, run everything you want. Of course, I was able to download Tidal Music, Twitter, Instagram, Netflix, and all of these applications run pretty much the same as you'd expect them to run before. The 120 frames per second refresh rate is beautiful, and it runs on both the front and expanded display. PUBG Mobile is in there, Gmail is in there, and although that little lightning option that you see there, that's because they're running as a quick app, meaning they're browser based, and I can run them as we showed you guys before. And of course, I'm able to run different applications. If I want to run them in pop-up window, I can do that as well. Close it, run it. We have a nice little side tray option here to be able to launch separate applications in here, the gallery and different things, email and so on. And of course, all of these run very, very smoothly. The one thing I will probably say is, as far as performance and basically enjoyment the most, it's literally when you're using it as a full display. The display is so much more gorgeous, it's beautiful. You're able to use it in landscape or in portrait. And of course, what this means is that we're able to use this and enjoy this as a full display, as you could see all the way over. Or of course, we have the ability of setting it up right. And then of course, as I mentioned to you guys, last but not least, if you want to be able to use it as a regular, just like again, a tent mode, you can put it in there and the display runs again in the format that you want it. You can enjoy the content from here, enjoy the show, or just basically pop it up. We still have access to picture-in-picture, so we can actually expand the display, use it here, run it at the same time as I'm watching another show, or if I'm done, bring it down and put it away. Very nice and very simple. You can imagine how much more enjoyable it is to play a game, let's say like PUBG Mobile here. And one of the really main benefits that I love about this is under graphics and options that we get in here. Now I'm actually using it as Ultra HD. You don't have to use it Ultra HD. If you go to HDR, you're able to jump into Extreme, but Ultra HD gives us the best configuration for display quality as well as graphics and of course the animation. So the overall experience here is very nice, very beautiful, large display, stereo speakers, and this gives us the ability of enjoying games in a much more functional way than what we've seen with other devices. Again, I can fold this and of course still use it as a regular smartphone. And as you can imagine, the gaming on this is absolutely going to be fantastic. The large format display, the touch responsiveness, 120 Hz refresh rate, and of course the higher resolution gameplay in PUBG makes it a very enjoyable game. The only thing I would probably say in the overall scheme of playing this game is if you want to change formats, meaning from an unfolded to a folded, you do need to basically open up the app, the recents function, and allow it to actually resize for the display that you're in. It's not that it'll stop the game, but you're able to switch between one to the other, but just not the normal way of unfolding and refolding the display. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're playing games, and you'll have a good aspect ratio, and of course the experience is going to be very nice. What we're going to get to right now is just a quick audio sample of how does the speakers play on this. I'm going to be playing my favorite song, Alex Crindo Jumbo by NCS Release. 100% volume level here, and again the speakers are sitting on the right and left, so we're going to go ahead and turn it up to the side, give it all the way full screen, and we'll play the song.
Jack it up.
Sounds pretty good, experience is really nice, and of course one of the biggest benefits here is the ability of listening to the audio in stereo. Now, one thing to mention, there is no headphone jack, but if you do need to listen to audio using the USB-C, it's present right here on the left, and it is very nice if you're using it in the more of a standard traditional way. Sorry, this way more the camera is present on the top. It's facing downwards, you don't have to worry about it. And again, you can always just basically shrink it down, go down to the normal form factor of the phone, and you're able to enjoy it very well. I will say one thing though, one thing I do enjoy about this device is the fact that it actually has a full-blown video editor built in to the gallery app. This video I just shot real quick in the backyard. This is a quick 4K 60 frames per second video playing in the backyard, and I just wanted to take a pan shot. Now, most video editors or most gallery applications have some type of a functionality for video playback. This actually has a functionality of actually using a full suite of video editing tools. I'm talking about between split speed, changing the speed, animation, transitions. I can actually scroll through in here. We can go ahead and split this functionality, jump in here real quick, and then we'll get, yeah, I know we can actually minimize it there. And we're gonna go ahead and jump into an animation. You notice right there, I'm gonna give it the up functionality. And then as you can see right there, we'll go ahead and hit play, apply, we'll hit check. And now, while the video is playing this way, you'll actually do a nice little jump cut from there, and of course the transition. And you're also able to customize a whole bunch of other things. This is truly a tool that you normally do not expect in any smartphone. Not even the Samsung editor does actually feature a full suite editing tool such as this. And this is really functional to be able to get the best quality video out of your device. And again, with a large format to be able to support that. It's really, really nice. So the biggest thing about this is the form factor. From the moment I received this, I already had the Z Fold4 with me. So I was traveling with the Z Fold4 with me, going to IFA, and I started to experience what the XS2 is offering us. Now, first and foremost, yes, the GMS situation, this is something that we can't do much about it, and there is no 5G on this device due to the same configuration. But App Gallery as well as Pedal Search have been advancing so much since when we first got introduced to it. There is really very little application that you can almost never find them. And if you can't find them in App Gallery, Pedal Search will be able to install the APK. And the function that they have in there, they've already validated these applications, and they have an automated system to be able to update them similar to the way we get them in Google Play services or on a Google Play store. So although it's not exactly the same, it still functions the same, and you should be able to get most of the functionalities. The quick app functionalities allows us to have, obviously, Gmail, as well as having YouTube, and of course, utilizing the desktop mode functionality. Now, Chrome, as well as Google Maps, didn't really need GMS, so for the most part, you can just download those APKs, and they'll run the normal way you want them, if you prefer to use Chrome as your default browser. So, when it comes down to foldables and functionality and experience, overall, fast charging, 66-watt charging is still pretty good compared to some of the other options we have. Now, one thing you do need to know though, when you're charging the phone, it does ask you to unfold the phone because of the battery, and it does generate heat. When you're closing the phone in, and it's actually closed in this format, charging it at a fast pace is sometimes not the best situation because you're generating heat there. The case that they did provide in here, I will say, is seriously one of the best options I've seen on the market. It is a first-party case. Obviously, other case manufacturers will have to make something similar, but it truly makes it look and function like a regular phone. And this is really why I'm liking this more as far as the usability than what I get with the Z Fold4. Keep in mind, again, multi-screen, launching applications, floating windows, all these things obviously work. This is technically still running Android. And of course, the Fold still has other functionalities going in for it. The desktop application, where we had EMUI desktop, is not functional in a wired mode on the XS2. It's only functional as a wireless. So hopefully we'll see that in an update in the near future, updated. And of course, we still have DeX functional here on the Z Fold4. So there are some other things, obviously, compatibility and so on. 4G LTE is pretty decent in the market that you're in, as long as you're in a market that is supported. In the US on T-Mobile, this actually worked quite well for me. At the end of the day, what do I think about the Mate XS2? I think this definitely been improved quite well. I like the fact that we have a front-facing camera, as well as the ability of still using the main cameras on the back, since they're technically the best, the main 50-megapixel camera sensor in the back. Now, we still have, obviously, the 8 and the 13. Those are complementing cameras, but I still feel like the 50-megapixel is going to be the main breadwinner in this situation. The front-facing camera at a 10.7 megapixel camera is pretty decent. Not the best situation, but I still feel like it still functions very well. We have the ability of running it in standard mode. We can run it in tripod mode like this. This is more of a triangle mode. You can run it in open mode, closed mode, whatever you want. It'll still run 120 frames per second and the gorgeous OLED panel that we have in there. Now, keep in mind, yes, technically it is still having the front display exposed, but at the end of the day, it's been pretty decent with me for the last month. I put it in my pocket every time. I've never had a problem with it. It doesn't scratch and it doesn't bend. I love the fact that we don't have that crease that goes in the middle of the display. Having it open to the outer side is a better implementation, at least not on paper, but reality when we're looking at them, because the Fold still utilizes the same mechanism since the first generation. We still have a crease in there. They've improved the protector and the technology that we have in there, but we're still looking at a crease that your finger will go across every time you use it, because when you open it, the crease is always in the center. This is just the orientation that you open it. So you always have to kind of go sideways for you to kind of get rid of it a little bit. So at the end of the day, depending on the market that you're in, and if you're comfortable having a device that does not have HMS, Google Play services, it does have HMS, and you're comfortable using, let's say, Pedal Search or App Gallery, I think the Mate XS2 could be actually a good functional phone for you, and it could actually perform quite well. So let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of the brand new Mate XS2? Again, 888 is still technically last year's processor, but it's still way more powerful than what we need on any day, any kind of functional thing that we need to do on our devices. I like the fact that it has a full-blown video editor. The cameras are pretty decent, as I showed you guys. And of course, at the end of the day, we're getting some of the best experiences that Huawei has to offer us on a foldable in 2022. Thank you very much for the support. I'll see you in the next video.